They give you a medal for killing. They give you a flag for dying. But nobody tells you what they give you for surviving. They give you the faces of the dead to watch while you sleep. They give you a silence so loud it makes you want to scream. I went to Iraq as a boy who wanted to be a hero. I came back as a ghost wearing a Marine's uniform. This is the truth about the Second Battle of Fallujah, the parts they left out of the official reports.
You know what is scariest before a battle? Not the gunfire, not the explosions. It is the silence. That exact minute when you are sitting in the ruins of someone else's city, gripping your rifle with white knuckles, and you realize that in a few seconds, someone will try to kill you, and you will try to kill them first. And that thought, it does not come like some revelation. It just eats into your brain like rust into metal, slowly, irreversibly. I was 19 years old when I killed my first man. November 2004, Fallujah, Second Battle, Jolan District, ruins of a school on the city outskirts. I did not want to be there. Nobody wanted to be there. But we were. A platoon of United States Marine Corps, call sign Phantom 21. 16 men between life and death. I was the youngest. My name was Mark Jensen, but everyone just called me Boot, Newbie, Cherry, the one who did not know yet what war smells like. Now I know. It smells like burning rubber, decay, and dust. Dust everywhere. In your nose, in your mouth, on your teeth, under your nails. You breathe it, you chew it, you sleep with it. And after 3 months in country, you cannot even remember if there was ever a world without this goddamn Iraqi dust. 36 hours ago, we got orders to hold position in a destroyed school. 2-story building with blown-out windows, punched-through walls, and a roof that looked like Swiss cheese after a bombing run. Perfect place for defense, or for a trap. Depends which way you look at it. Sergeant Carver, our squad leader, said something very simple to me back then. Boot, you ever killed a man? I shook my head. Hands were not shaking yet. My M16 felt like a toy from a video game. Everything felt unreal. Carver smirked. Corners of his mouth twitched, but his eyes stayed dead. His face looked like a bombed-out road after an artillery strike. Scars, wrinkles, the stare of a man who had seen too much. 28 years old, 2 tours in Iraq, a veteran. Next to him, I was like a kid next to an old man. Well, he said, you are about to find out, whether it is anything like your video game. I did not understand what he meant back then. Now I do. In video games, you do not smell the blood. Do not hear the rattle of a wounded man's lungs. Do not see someone's guts spill out onto dusty concrete. And you do not wake up at night remembering the face of the guy you killed point blank. There were a few guys in our squad I remember. Rodriguez, 22, a joker from Los Angeles. Constantly cracking jokes, cursing in 2 languages, carried a photo of his girlfriend in his chest pocket. Said she was his lucky charm. I saw that photo later, covered in blood. But Rodriguez survived. Miller, 25, sniper, silent as a tombstone. Shot like his rifle was an extension of his hands. Never missed. Never said more than necessary. Just did his job. Killed people with the cold precision of a surgeon. And Thompson. He was 20 but looked about 16. Baby cheeks still on him, peach fuzz instead of a beard, eyes wide. He had arrived in country 2 weeks before me. We were almost twins in inexperience. Only I survived. And he... But that is for later. Sunset painted Fallujah bloody orange. The city was burning. Somewhere in the distance, explosions thumped, automatic fire crackled, tank engines roared. The battle had been going for 3 days already. We were clearing the city block by block, house by house, room by room, slowly, bloodily. Casualties mounting on both sides, but our sector was quiet. Too quiet. I took position at a second-floor window, set out spare magazines in a row on the windowsill. 30 rounds each, 9 magazines, 270 shots. Sounds like a lot, but when battle starts, ammo runs out so fast it is like you are throwing handfuls into the void. Click of the safety. Such a simple sound. Metal on metal. But when you hear it, you understand that this is it. No more training exercises. No more instructors yelling but not shooting. Now it is real. Rodriguez to my left was whispering a prayer in Spanish. Santa Maria, Madre de Dios. I did not know Spanish, but I understood the tone. This was the prayer of a man who was not sure he would see the dawn. Miller to my right was wiping his scope lens. Movements mechanical, detached. He had done this hundreds of times, like a ritual before the hunt. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure the enemy would hear it a block away. Boom, 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 like someone hammering my ribs from the inside. I swallowed, mouth bone dry, tongue like sandpaper. Sweat rolled down my back under the Kevlar vest, and I suddenly thought, damn, how hot is it in this country even at night? Radio came alive. All stations, this is Phantom 6. Hold your positions. Wait for contact. The company commander's voice was calm, professional, but I heard the tension underneath that calm. He knew something we did not. Intel reports mass movement in your sector. Estimate 200+ insurgents preparing for assault wave attack. Rules of engagement. Weapons free on positive ID. 200. There were 16 of us. Carver exhaled and looked at us. Short bursts, Marines. Do not burn through all your ammo at once. When it starts, do not panic. Do not freeze. Just do your job. Do your job. Kill people. That was the whole job. My mother's face flashed in my head. At the airport in San Diego, she was crying, hugging me so tight like she was trying to hold me back, saying, "Come home, son, please come home." I promised. Said, "Mom, it will be fine, I will be careful." I did not think then that being careful does not save you in war. Speed saves you. Brutality. And goddamn luck. The silence pressed down. In the corner, flies buzzed over something you were better off not looking at. But I looked. A corpse. An insurgent killed 2 days ago during the building clearing. Nobody removed it. No time. Nobody to do it. He lay there, bloated, blackened, and the flies were feasting. I turned away, stomach clenched, bile rose in my throat. Do not puke. Do not embarrass yourself in front of the others. Not now. Breathed through my mouth, short breaths. In, out, like they taught us. Breathing control, fear control. Except fear cannot be controlled. It lives in your chest like a ball of ice and grows with every second. Wind blew from the city, brought smells, burning, smoke, something sickly sweet, the smell of war. I did not know then that this smell would seep into my clothes, my skin, my memory so deep that even years later I would smell it at the most unexpected moments. In a supermarket, in bed next to my wife, in church at Christmas. In the distance, beyond the mosque ruins, came a howl. At first I did not understand what it was. Then I did. A muezzin, loudspeaker. But this was not a call to prayer. The voice was hysterical, choking, chanting. I did not know Arabic, but the tone was clear. This was a war cry. Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Again and again, like a mantra, like an incantation. Carver grabbed binoculars, looked toward the sound. Heads up, Marines! They are psyching themselves up. Get ready! Rodriguez laughed nervously. Yo, Boot! Pray while you still got time. I pressed my lips together. Pray? To God? To the God who let me end up here in this destroyed school, in this cursed city where in a few minutes a meat grinder would start. I did not know what to believe, so I just gripped my rifle harder and stared through the sights. Somewhere close, a dog barked, then a yelp, then silence. Someone killed it, or it stepped on a mine, or just died from fear. Everything was dying in Fallujah. People, animals, hope. Metallic taste in my mouth, adrenaline, fear, or just blood from a bitten lip. I did not notice when I bit it. One thought spun in my head like a broken record. I am not ready. God, I am not ready. I am not ready to kill. I am not ready to die. I am not ready. Movement. Miller spotted it first. Contact front, 200 meters, single tango. Carver raised binoculars. I see him. Hold fire. Let them come closer. Conserve ammo. I aimed where Miller was looking. Dusk was thickening. Gray shadows between gray ruins. At first I saw nothing. Then I saw a silhouette, slipped between two burned cars, then another, 3, 5, 10. They were moving in short rushes, cover to cover, professional, not a mob of savages, fighters. Radio crackled. Phantom 2-1, confirm visual on enemy movement. Carver pressed the button. Confirm. Visual on approximately 20 tangos, still closing. 20. That was just the beginning. The mosque speakers exploded with sound. War hymn, sermon, screaming, everything mixed into one hysterical shriek. The mullah's voice drowned everything out. Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! And behind that shriek, like an echo, hundreds of voices picked it up. I felt cold crawl up my spine. They are working themselves up, pumping themselves with adrenaline, getting ready to die. Suicide attackers, kamikazes, men with nothing left to lose. Rodriguez crossed himself. They are coming at us like it is the last attack of their lives. Carver did not take his eyes off the binoculars. Steady. Let them make the first move. A new sound came from the darkness. Banging, rhythmic, metal on metal. Tan, 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 tan. Like a drum roll. Primitive, but creepily effective. My heart started beating in time with those strikes. Behind me, Thompson was breathing hard, almost wheezing. I turned around. He was pressed against the wall, rifle shaking in his hands. Thompson, you good? He nodded, but his eyes were wide, wild. I am good, Boot. I just... He did not finish. Did not need to. I already knew. He was the same as me, a terrified kid thrown into a meat grinder. Gunshot, single shot, AK-47, that distinctive crack. Bullet hit brick a meter from my window. Shrapnel sprayed. I ducked instinctively, hard in my throat. Single shot, probing. Do not return fire, Carver said. Do not give away positions yet. Another shot. Another. Sniper duel in the twilight. Someone out there in the dark was trying to feel us out. Find the windows, find targets. Miller slowly aimed. Exhaled. Seconds pause. Smooth trigger pull. Bang! M16 gave soft recoil. At 250 meters, a figure fell from a rooftop, tumbled, slapped onto the asphalt. Tango down. Miller said it so matter-of-factly like he was talking about the weather. First blood. But for him it was just work. For me it was a signal. Here it comes. It has started. Hands shook. I gripped the handguard so hard my fingers went numb. Breathe, just breathe. Do your job. Gunfire picked up. AKs cracking all around the perimeter. Bullets whistled overhead, bit into walls, sparked off rebar. I peeked out from cover. Saw a shadow by a wall about 150 meters out. Aimed. Red dot on center mass. Shoot! Come on, shoot! I pressed the trigger. 3 rounds. Short burst. Bap, bap, bap! Recoil. Smell of gunpowder. Ringing in my ears. Shadow dropped. Or ducked. Could not tell. Whether I hit or not, I do not know. But I fired. First time in my life I fired at a human being. Brain was working in overdrive, but thoughts were sticky like molasses. Too much information, too much fear, too much everything. Carver was screaming into the radio. Contact! Contact! Multiple tangos advancing from the east, requesting immediate support! Response choked with static, broken words. Rodriguez raked the window of a building across with a long burst. An AK tumbled out, then a body. I saw it from the corner of my eye. Gunfire suddenly stopped. Silence. Silence thicker than the noise of battle. Only the muezzin's wail and the metallic clanging. Tan, tan, tan. Carver was changing magazines. Movements crisp, automatic. Reloading. Everyone check your sectors. I slammed in a new magazine. Hands were shaking. Sweat flooded my eyes. salty, stinging film. I wiped my face with my palm, smeared dirt and sweat. Rodriguez was muttering, "They are gonna rush us all at once now. I feel it, guys." Carver nodded. "Then we will make them pay for every meter." Sound was building beyond the horizon of ruins. Footsteps, hundreds of feet, running forward, screaming, roar of a crowd. Not men, a wave, a tsunami of flesh, metal, and fanaticism. Carver rasped, "Here they come." A thought suddenly flashed absurdly through my head. I am 19 years old. I could be in a history lecture at college right now. Could be sitting in a cafe with a girl. Could be anywhere. But I am here, in the ruins of an Iraqi school, with a rifle in my hands. And in a few seconds I will be killing. Or I will be killed. The footsteps got louder, closer. And then they appeared. From around the corner of ruins. From alleyways. Through breaches in walls. Dozens. Hundreds. Black silhouettes, green headbands, AKs at the ready, screaming, "Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!" Not a tactical advance, a crazed rush, a wave of suicide attackers. Carver roared, "Fire! Fire! Light them up!" I squeezed the trigger, and the world exploded. I squeezed the trigger and did not let go. Rapid fire. Against everything they taught us in basic. Short bursts, controlled fire, conserve ammo. To hell with that. When 100 men are charging at you screaming, you do not think about conserving anything. You just squeeze and pray. The M16 bucked in my hands like a living thing trying to escape. Hot brass casings rained down, tinkling on the concrete floor like broken glass. The smell hit me instantly. Cordite, burning powder, and the metallic tang of hot iron. My barrel was heating up fast, too fast, but they kept coming. The first wave hit the open ground between the ruins. There was no cover there, just an open street filled with rubble and the promise of death. Miller was firing methodically. Bap, bap, bap! One shot, one kill. A man drops. Next target. Another drops. It looked like he was plinking cans at a range, totally detached. Rodriguez had his rifle on rapid fire too, long bursts sweeping left to right. I saw bodies spin, drop, and crumple into the dirt. A dark red mist hung in the air, a spray of life against the fading orange sunset. They did not stop. For every one that fell, 2 more took his place. They were stepping over their own dead, using the fallen as stepping stones. Pushing forward, green headbands, black clothes, AK-47s held high. They were screaming that same chant over and over, "Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!" The sound of it mixed with the thunder of gunfire to create an insane symphony. Death music. And I was part of the orchestra now. My first magazine ran dry. Click. Empty. Time slowed down. That is not a cliché, it actually happened. My hands moved on autopilot, fueled by the muscle memory of 1,000 practice drills. Magazine out, new one in, charging handle back, slap, chamber the round. All of it took maybe 2 seconds, but it felt like an hour. In those 2 seconds, I saw the world in high definition. I saw a fighter about 100 meters out, a tall man with a gray beard and an RPK machine gun. He was firing from the hip, bullets stitching a line across our building. I saw Rodriguez duck as rounds punched through the wall above him, sending clouds of concrete dust exploding into the room. I saw another fighter, young, maybe younger than me. He had a baby face, no beard yet. He was running at a full sprint with a rifle in one hand and a grenade in the other. His mouth was open, screaming, and I could see the yellow of his teeth. I did not have time to think about their mothers or their lives. I just aimed and fired. The young one went down first. My rounds caught him center mass. He twisted, fell, and the grenade rolled from his hand. It detonated 3 meters away, the blast throwing his body like a rag doll. The old man with the limp was next. Miller dropped him with a clean headshot. The man's head snapped back, and he collapsed into a heap of old clothes and broken dreams. Then came the RPG. I did not see it coming. I only heard Carver scream, "RPG! RPG!" The grenade hit the first floor. A massive explosion followed, making the entire building shudder like it was made of cardboard. I fell to my knees. My ears were ringing with a high-pitched whine, and everything else sounded muffled, like I was deep underwater. Dust and smoke billowed up through the floorboards. A chunk of concrete the size of a football crashed next to my head. "Get up, get up, get up!" I stumbled to my feet, my vision blurry. I tasted blood. I had bitten my tongue when I hit the floor. The window frame was half gone now, leaving even more open space to shoot from, or to die in. Carver was back at the radio, his voice hoarse and desperate. "Phantom 6, this is 2-1, taking heavy fire. Building hit by RPG. We need air support now." The response crackled back through the static. 2-1, CAS en route, ETA 10 minutes. Hold your position. 10 minutes. We would be dead in 5. Carver threw down the handset and looked at us through the haze. "Mark your sectors. Do not let them get close." They were already close. 50 meters, 40. I could see their faces clearly now, not shadows, but people. Real people, dirty, sweating, and wild-eyed. Some were grinning with a terrifying madness. Some were crying. Some were just blank. Combat faces. The same as mine, probably. I fired, and fired, and fired. The kid next to me, Thompson, was shooting but not aiming. He was just pointing his rifle into the smoke and squeezing the trigger. Panic fire. Wasting ammo. I could hear him whimpering between bursts, his breathing rapid and shallow. "Oh God, oh God, oh God!" "Focus, Thompson," I yelled. "Aim! Short bursts!" He did not hear me. He was lost in his own head, paralyzed by combat shock. The moment your brain just says, "Enough," and checks out. Another RPG screamed past our window. It was so close I felt the heat of the exhaust. It punched into the building behind us, creating a massive orange fireball. The fighter who fired it was already reloading, crouched behind a burned-out car. A young guy in a black tactical vest. Professional. I aimed. Controlled breathing. Exhale. Squeeze. 3-round burst. Center mass. He jerked, dropped the launcher, and grabbed his chest. He fell forward over the hood of the car, blood running down the rusted metal in dark rivulets. "Good kill, Boot!" Carver shouted. I did not feel good. I felt nothing. Target, shoot. Next target, shoot. It was mechanical. Then they hit the building. Small groups were infiltrating through the breaches made by the rockets. I heard gunfire from the first floor, shouting, screaming, English and Arabic mixed into a chaos soup. "Contact below!" Rodriguez yelled. He pulled a grenade, yanked the pin, and let the lever fly. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. He dropped it through a hole in the floor. "Frag out!" The blast was muffled, followed by a long, drawn-out scream that eventually faded into silence. Rodriguez looked through the hole and gave a thumbs up. 3 tangos down. But the shooting downstairs did not stop. More were coming. "Miller, Rodriguez, hold this floor!" Carver barked. "Mark, Thompson, with me! We are going down!" The stairs were a nightmare. Narrow, dark, and covered in rubble. Carver went first, rifle up. I was second, with Thompson behind me, still whimpering. Halfway down, a fighter appeared at the bottom, a man in a black turban with an AK in his hands. Time froze as we both raised our weapons. It was a race to see who wanted to live more. Carver fired first. The rounds hit the fighter in the face, and his head simply came apart. Pieces of bone and brain splattered the wall behind him. His body stayed standing for a heartbeat before collapsing. "Keep moving!" Carver barked. We stepped over the body. I tried not to look, but I did. I saw what was left of his face. That image would stay with me for the next 20 years. The first floor was hell. 3 insurgents were inside. Carver shot the first one. I shot the second. Thompson froze. The third fighter raised his rifle at Thompson from maybe 3 meters away. I watched it in slow motion, the insurgent's finger on the trigger, Thompson's eyes going wide. I shoved Thompson aside hard. The insurgent's burst went wide, punching holes in the plaster. I brought my rifle up. Our eyes met. Brown eyes, scared eyes, young eyes, just like mine. I fired first. 4 rounds, 3 to the chest, 1 to the throat. He went down gurgling, hands clawing at his neck as dark arterial blood spurted between his fingers. It took him 20 seconds to die, and I watched the light go out of his eyes while he pleaded for a life I had already taken. Thompson was sobbing now, slumped against the wall. He almost killed me. He almost fucking killed me. But he did not. Carver shook him by the vest. "Now pick up your goddamn rifle and fight!" We ran back to the second floor as Miller screamed that we were being flanked. 3 more insurgents were coming through a hole in the wall. One of them threw a grenade. It landed right between us. "Grenade!" Carver did not hesitate. He dove for it, grabbing it with his bare hands. He threw it back just as it detonated in midair. The blast was a hammer blow of fire and shrapnel that shredded the attackers. Carver turned back to us, his face resigned and covered in soot. That was too fucking close. Rodriguez was hit. A bullet had grazed his shoulder and blood was soaking through his uniform. He was still firing, cursing in Spanish between trigger pulls. Miller was down to his last magazine. "How many?" I asked, my voice cracking. 40? 50? Miller shrugged. "They just keep coming." Then the radio erupted. "All Phantom elements, this is Phantom 6. CAS inbound 30 seconds. Mark your position with IR strobe. Danger close, I say again. Danger close." Carver tossed the infrared strobe out the window. "Everyone get down! Away from the windows!" The roar of turbines came first, then the scream of the 30mm cannon. Brrrt! That sound is like God ripping the fabric of reality. Through the window, I saw the ground outside disintegrate. Concrete shattered, cars flipped, and the insurgents simply ceased to exist. They were erased. Then the Hellfire missiles hit. The building across the street turned into an orange fireball. The heat slapped my face like an open oven door. Then came the ringing silence. The attack had stopped. The survivors were scattering into the ruins. The aftermath was worse. Dozens of bodies lay scattered like broken dolls. The smell of cordite and copper and death was suffocating. I stood at the window and looked at the carnage I had helped create. Some were still moving, crawling away like slugs leaving a trail of blood. Thompson looked at them, his voice tiny. "Should we help them?" "Help them?" Carver looked at him like he was insane. "They just tried to kill us. Let them bleed out. That is war." Rodriguez was pale, but he was grinning. "We held them. We actually held them." I looked at my hands. They were covered in blood. I did not know whose. I had killed my first man today. No, I had killed many. I lost count after 5. The boy who left San Diego was dead. He died in this school under a blood-orange sky. Someone else was wearing his uniform now. Someone colder. Someone harder. And tomorrow, that someone would pick up his rifle and do it all again. Sleep did not come that night. I lay on my cot in the makeshift barracks they had set up in a half-collapsed warehouse. My eyes were closed, but my mind was wide awake, racing. Every time I drifted off, I would jerk back to consciousness, my heart pounding and my breath short. It felt like I was drowning. The images came without warning. The fighter on the stairs, his face exploding into a red mist and white bone fragments. The gray matter sliding down the wall. The one I shot in the throat, those 20 seconds watching him drown in his own blood. The gurgling sound, the way his fingers clawed at the empty air. And the young kid with the grenade, his body coming apart in the blast. Things that should have been inside staying outside. I opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling. Cracked concrete and rebar poking through like broken ribs. This whole country was falling apart, including me. Around me, the others were sleeping, or trying to. Rodriguez snored despite his wounded shoulder. Miller was silent, as always. He might have been awake, or he might have been dead. It was hard to tell with him. Thompson was not sleeping either. I could hear his quiet crying muffled into his pillow so nobody would hear. But I heard. We all heard. Nobody said anything. What could you say? 0430 hours, before dawn. Carver shook me awake even though I was already staring at him. "Up, Boot. We got orders." I sat up. My body was aching. Every muscle felt sore like I had been beaten with hammers. That is what combat does to you. The adrenaline hides the damage until later, and then it all catches up at once. "What orders?" "Patrol," Carver said. "Command wants eyes on the eastern sector. Check for movement after yesterday." Patrol in Fallujah at dawn was the worst possible time. Low visibility, perfect ambush conditions. I pulled on my boots and laced them tight. I checked my rifle and loaded a fresh magazine. 30 rounds. I counted them twice to be sure. Habit now. Count everything. Ammo, grenades, water, seconds left to live. 6 of us moved out as the sun was starting to break. Carver on point, Miller second, me third. Rodriguez fourth with his wounded shoulder wrapped tight. Thompson fifth, still looking shell-shocked. And a new guy, Private First Class Jackson, 21 years old, built like a linebacker. This was his first patrol, fresh meat. Our boots crunched on the rubble. It was too loud. Everything was too loud. My breathing, my heartbeat, the creak of my gear. We followed Carver's lead, staying tight with 5-meter spacing. The streets were narrow, and the buildings pressed close on both sides. It was too quiet. "I do not like this," Rodriguez whispered. "Where is everybody?" Carver raised a fist. We froze. He pointed to a second-story window on the left. Miller raised his rifle, scope to his eye. "Single male, military age, no weapon visible." "Could be civilian," Jackson said. "Fallujah?" Carver glanced back. "No such thing." We made it 2 more blocks before the first shot. A single crack of an AK-47. The bullet snapped past my head close enough for me to feel the pressure wave. It punched into the wall behind me. "Contact left!" Miller shouted. We scattered. "Find cover! Return fire!" I dove behind a burned-out car. I brought my rifle up and scanned the windows. There! Second story! Muzzle flash! I fired a 3-round burst. More gunfire erupted from multiple positions. This was not a sniper. It was a planned ambush. "We are in a fucking kill box!" Rodriguez yelled. Carver was on the radio, but the news was bad. All QRF elements were engaged. We were on our own. Jackson was pinned down behind a low wall, taking heavy fire. He was shooting back, but it was panic fire, wasting ammo. Then a grenade came arcing out of an alley. Frag! It landed between Jackson and Thompson, 3 meters, kill radius 5. Thompson saw it and froze. He just stared at it. I was too far away. Jackson did not freeze. He moved. He launched himself at the grenade and covered it with his body. The blast was muffled, wet. Jackson's body absorbed most of it. He jerked once and then went still. "Jackson!" Thompson screamed. "No time! We had to move!" Carver was already pulling back, using bounding overwatch. "Boot! Rodriguez, get Thompson and move!" I ran to Thompson and grabbed his vest, dragging him away from Jackson's body. "We cannot leave him! He is gone!" I shouted. "He is fucking gone! Move!" We ran 4 blocks until the shooting faded. We set up in a destroyed pharmacy that smelled of antiseptic and death. Carver did a head count. 5. We were 5 now. Thompson was sitting against the wall, shaking. "He saved my life," Thompson whispered. "He did not even know me." "That is what Marines do," Carver said quietly. Rodriguez was patching his shoulder. His face was gray. We had to get to extraction point Echo, but it was 90 minutes away through the industrial sector, deep in contested territory, a meat grinder. We moved building to building. The city was waking up with the rumble of tanks and distant explosions. We passed through an abandoned marketplace. Produce was rotting in the sun, and thick black clouds of flies swarmed over everything. The smell of sweet decay was ungodly. There were bodies of civilians in the street, an old man face down, a woman with a baby. Thompson turned away and dry heaved. The next ambush came from nowhere. An RPG screamed past and hit a wall. Shrapnel sliced my forearm. "Ambush right!" Carver roared. We were caught in the open. Another RPG hit the ground 3 meters in front of us. The blast picked me up and threw me. I hit the ground hard, the air knocked out of my lungs. My ears were ringing. I saw Carver and Miller firing. I forced myself to my knees and grabbed my rifle. I aimed at a fighter and pulled the trigger. Nothing. A jam. A double feed. The worst kind. I fumbled with the magazine, my fingers slippery with blood. A fighter appeared 10 meters away, pointing his AK at me. Our eyes met. I was going to die. A shot rang out. The fighter's head snapped sideways in a red spray. "Miller, clear that weapon and get in the fight," he shouted. I cleared the jam and got back in, but we were outnumbered and outgunned. Rodriguez was hit again, this time in the leg. We grabbed him and dragged him into an alley as a building behind us collapsed. It gave us a temporary smoke screen. We set up in the alley. Rodriguez was pale, going into shock. "Hang on, buddy," I said. "Help is coming." "You are a shit liar, Boot," Rodriguez smiled weakly. The insurgents were regrouping. We could hear them shouting in Arabic. They knew we were trapped. I checked my magazines. 2 left. 60 rounds. Not enough. 15 minutes, Marines, Carver said after talking to the radio. "We can do 15 minutes. The first insurgent rounded the corner. I shot him in the face. The second one came right behind him, and Carver took him down. Then they rushed us. 10, 15, more. We fired and fired until the gunpowder smoke was choking us. My bolt locked back. Empty. Last magazine. 5 meters away, an insurgent lunged with a knife. I swung my rifle like a club, catching him in the jaw. Bone crunched. I shot him 3 times on the ground just to be sure. My rifle clicked. Empty. No more magazines. I pulled my M9 pistol. 15 rounds. I started shooting. Point and shoot. Target. Shoot. I was screaming. Then I heard it. The roar of an Abrams tank. It came around the corner like an angry god. The main gun fired. Boom! The round hit the crowd and turned the street into a charnel house. 2 Bradleys followed, their 25mm chain guns shredding everything in their path. The insurgents broke and ran. We loaded Rodriguez onto the tank. He was unconscious. Miller climbed up, then Thompson, who moved like a zombie. I sat on the warm metal and felt the vibration of the engine. I was alive, for now. Jackson was gone. He was just 3 letters now. K-I-A. Killed in action. We would send him home in a box, a casualty statistic for a war that did not care about his name. I sat on the tank and watched the smoke rise over Fallujah. The boy I used to be was gone, replaced by someone colder, someone who knew the price of a single minute of life. Rodriguez died on the way back. We did not notice at first. He was unconscious, slumped against the tank's hull. We thought he was just sleeping, exhausted, like all of us. It was Miller who checked his pulse. He put 2 fingers to the side of Rodriguez's neck, waited, and then slowly shook his head. He is gone. Just like that. Gone. The guy who was cracking jokes yesterday. The guy who carried a photo of his girlfriend and cursed in Spanish while calling me Boot with that stupid, infectious grin. Dead from blood loss, or shock, or both. It did not matter which. Dead was dead. Thompson heard it and started crying again. Quiet sobs that shook his whole body. He had stopped caring who saw him. Carver just closed his eyes, his jaw tight. He said nothing. There was nothing left to say. We were losing them one by one. I looked at the body. It was still warm, the blood still wet on the uniform. Flies were already landing. Always the flies. They knew. They could smell death before the heart even stopped. 2 down, Jackson and Rodriguez, in less than 24 hours. The forward operating base looked like paradise compared to the streets. Fortified walls, sandbags, and American flags, relative safety. Mortars still hit the base regularly, but it was not the Jolan District. The Abrams rolled through the main gate and soldiers stared as we dismounted. We were covered in blood and dust, looking like walking corpses. A corpsman rushed over and looked at Rodriguez's body, then at us. "Anyone else hit?" I glanced down at my leg. The shrapnel wound. I had not even thought about it during the fight. Now that the adrenaline was fading, it hurt. A sharp, burning pain. Blood had soaked through my pants. "I am hit! Minor!" The medical tent smelled like antiseptic and copper. Wounded were everywhere, on cots, on the floor, moaning or silent. Triage in action. Save who you can and let the rest go. A doctor with tired eyes and bloody gloves looked at my leg. "Shrapnel?" Yeah, you are lucky. Missed the artery. Just tore up muscle. I will clean it and stitch it. He worked quickly and without anesthetic. We were low on everything. I bit down on a rolled-up cloth and let him dig out the metal fragments. Each one felt like someone stabbing me fresh. 5 pieces. He dropped them into a metal tray. Clink, clink, clink. Then came the stitches. 12 of them. Each pull of the thread made me want to scream, but I did not. Keep it clean, the doctor said. Give it 48 hours. If it does not get infected, you are cleared. 48 hours. 2 days of not fighting. I did not know if I could handle the quiet. They held a memorial service that evening, a formation in the courtyard with the whole company. 2 rifles were stuck in the ground, bayonets first, with helmets balanced on top. Dog tags hung from the pistol grips. Jackson, Rodriguez. The chaplain said words about sacrifice and duty, but I was not listening. I just stared at those empty helmets. Yesterday they were full of eyes, brains, thoughts, and dreams. Now they were just metal and Kevlar, empty shells. The commander talked about how they died as heroes. Bullshit. We would forget them in a month. They would just be names on a report nobody reads. That night I could not eat. I sat in the chow hall with a tray of powdered potatoes and mystery meat that tasted like cardboard. Miller sat across from me, eating mechanically like he was refueling a machine. "You should eat," he said. "You will need the energy." I am not hungry. Eat anyway. Survival is the point. Carver appeared and sat down heavily. He looked like he had aged 10 years in 2 days. "New orders," he said. "Tomorrow we go back out." "Already?" My stomach dropped. "We are short on squads. Every rifle on the line. They are sending Thompson home. Medical evacuation, psychological trauma." "He quit," Miller said flatly. "He did not quit," Carver snapped. "He broke. There is a difference." I found Thompson in the barracks, staring at his rifle like it was a snake that might bite him. He told me he signed up for college money for the GI Bill. Nobody told him he would be killing kids and old men. "I cannot stop seeing their faces," he whispered, "especially when I close my eyes." "You survived," I told him. "That is enough." "No, you have to live with it after. I do not think I can." He left the next morning on a Blackhawk. I watched it disappear into the gray sky and felt nothing. I could not afford to feel. Feelings got you killed. His replacement arrived that afternoon. Private Williams, 19 years old, fresh from the States. His uniform was too clean and his eyes were too bright. No 1,000-yard stare. He reminded me of myself 3 days ago, a lifetime ago. "What is it like out there?" he asked me. "It is loud," I said, "and it is ugly, and people die. That is what it is like." 0500 the next morning. Same routine. Gear up, count magazines, say prayers if you had any left. 6 of us this time. Carver, Miller, me, Williams, and 2 others named Davis and Chen. Our mission was to clear a 3-block area in the Jolan District, suspected safe houses. We moved in column, clearing buildings room by room. Kick the door, toss a flashbang, rush in, and secure. The 3rd building was different. The door was barricaded. "Breach charge!" Carver ordered. Chen placed the C4 strip. Boom! The door blew inward and we rushed through a cloud of smoke. Gunfire erupted immediately. Davis went down, his body armor catching a round to the chest. I fired blind into the smoke. When it cleared, 3 insurgents were dead. 1 had a Quran on his chest. He had been reading before we killed him. The stairs were booby-trapped. Miller spotted the tripwire connected to a heavy artillery shell in the wall. We backed out and blew the whole building from the street. The entire structure lifted off its foundation and pancaked into rubble. At the 4th building, the door was wide open. A trap. We entered slowly. Williams was hyperventilating. We reached the last room on the 2nd floor. Carver threw the door open and the room exploded with gunfire. Carver took rounds to his legs and went down. Miller and I returned fire. Williams froze in the doorway. "Move!" I screamed. Too late. Bullets hit him, and I saw the dust puff from his uniform as he jerked and collapsed. We killed the 5 insurgents in the room, but the price was high. Williams was dead. He had lasted 6 hours in the combat zone. Carver was bleeding out from an arterial wound in his leg. Chen was hit in the shoulder. The Black Hawk came 10 minutes later. They zipped Williams into a black vinyl bag. Carver and Chen were loaded onto the bird. The crew chief told us we were combat ineffective and were being pulled back. Our squad was finished. 6 men down in 3 days. Carver would live, but he would never walk right again. Thompson was in a psych ward. Rodriguez and Jackson were in the morgue, waiting for the flight to Dover. And me? I was reassigned. New squad, new faces, same war. They gave us 72 hours to recover. But you do not recover from watching your friends turn into statistics. You just learn to live with the holes in your soul. I sat on my cot and stared at Rodriguez's empty bunk. His girlfriend's photo was still in his chest pocket. She was smiling, not knowing that tomorrow, officers would be knocking on her door. I lay back and closed my eyes. I could hear the distant explosions and the sound of the war grinding on without me. For now. I wondered how much longer I could last before I became a name on a memorial that nobody visits. I did not have an answer. 72 hours vanished like 72 minutes. Blink and it was over. Rest. Recovery. Bullshit. You do not recover from watching your friends die. You just stop thinking about it for a few hours until it all comes rushing back. I spent those 3 days in a fog. I ate without tasting and slept without dreaming. Well, that is a lie. I dreamed, but not the kind of dreams you want. I saw Rodriguez bleeding out. I saw Jackson exploding on that grenade. Williams taking 6 rounds in a doorway. And the fighter I shot in the throat, gurgling, drowning in his own blood. It played on repeat every time I closed my eyes. By the 3rd day, I was almost grateful to get back out there. In combat, you do not have time to think or remember. You just react, survive, kill, move on. The new squad was assembled on day 4. Staff Sergeant Hernandez was 32 years old with a face carved from granite and eyes that had seen too much. He had been in Fallujah since the beginning. He looked us over, me, Miller, and Davis, the survivors. "Heard you boys went through hell," he said. "Lost most of your squad." "Yes, Staff Sergeant." "Well, you are with me now. In my squad, we do not die. We kill. We take ground. We complete the mission. Clear?" "Crystal clear, Staff Sergeant." His team was different. There was Corporal Hassan, who spoke Arabic, Sergeant Brooks, a demo expert, Corporal Martinez, the medic, and Lance Corporal Kowalski, who was the best shot I had ever seen besides Miller. We rolled out in 2 Humvees, 8 of us, plus the drivers, into the heart of Fallujah. We drove past buildings that were nothing but hollow shells and bodies that had been picked clean by dogs. The city was already dead. Hassan was in the turret of my Humvee, his 50 caliber machine gun pointed forward. "Contact left!" he screamed. "RPG team!" I saw them 100 meters out, taking aim at us. Hassan opened up. The 50 cal roared with a rhythm that shook my teeth. Boom, 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 boom. Heavy rounds tore through the air and disintegrated the fighters. What was left of them was not recognizable as human. "Good kill," Hernandez said. "Keep scanning." I felt nothing watching them die. No guilt, no horror, just a cold mechanical observation. Miller was right. It gets easier. You turn off the part that feels and become just another weapon system. We dismounted 2 blocks from the mosque complex in Sector 7. It was too dangerous to drive closer because of the improvised explosives. We moved building to building, quiet, fast, and deadly. The mosque rose ahead of us, 3 stories high with a minaret pocked by bullet holes. It was a fortress. Hernandez glassed the building with his binoculars. "I count at least a dozen tangos, maybe more inside. This is their Alamo. Can we call in air?" Davis asked. "Negative. Command wants the building intact for the intel. We go in hard." Brooks placed a breach charge on the main door, a generous amount of C4. 3, 2, 1. "Breach!" Hernandez barked. The door exploded inward. We rushed through the smoke and dust into a hail of gunfire. Hassan went down immediately with a round to the arm, but he kept fighting, firing his rifle one-handed. Martinez dragged him to cover while Brooks threw a frag grenade. The explosion was followed by screams and then a heavy, ringing silence. "First floor clear!" We were already moving up the stairs. Hernandez first, me second, Miller third. We reached the second-floor landing and Hernandez kicked the door open. It was a trap. The hallway erupted as 10 insurgents poured out of the side rooms. Hernandez took rounds to his body armor and was knocked back into me. We both hit the ground. I fired from the prone position, an awkward angle, but my rounds were finding targets. Miller was a machine. Bap, bap, bap! Every shot was a kill. A fighter rushed me from 5 feet away with a knife. I did not think. I just pointed my rifle and pulled the trigger. 3 rounds to the chest and he dropped. Another tackled me from the right. We wrestled on the floor, his blade catching in my rifle's handguard. Then his head exploded. Miller had shot him point blank and brain matter splashed across my face, warm, wet, and metallic. I shoved the corpse off and scrambled up, covered in someone else's life. The second floor was a slaughterhouse, 12 dead insurgents, blood on the walls, the floor, and the ceiling. Hernandez was wounded in the shoulder, but he refused morphine. He needed to stay sharp for the third floor. The top floor was a command center filled with maps, radios, and computers, and 4 professional fighters in tactical gear. They did not surrender. Kowalski took a round to the leg and went down screaming. Davis was hit in the hand. I dove behind a heavy desk as bullets thunked into the wood. Miller flanked left and dropped 2 of them. Hernandez got the third. The 4th insurgent pulled a grenade, yanked the pin, and cooked it. I shot him multiple times, but the grenade was already live, rolling across the floor toward us. "Grenade!" I grabbed Kowalski by the vest and dragged him toward the stairs. Miller grabbed Davis. The grenade detonated, and the blast pressure sent us tumbling down the stairs in a tangled heap. My ears were ringing, and blood was leaking from my nose from the overpressure. But we were alive. We held that mosque for 2 hours before the relief force arrived. I sat against a wall, exhausted and numb. My face was still covered in the blood and brains of the man Miller had killed to save me. I did not have the energy to wipe it off. "How many today?" I asked Miller. 15, maybe 20. I lost count. I had killed multiple people today, and I could not even remember their faces. They were just targets, shadows that needed to be eliminated. I had become the machine. I had locked away the part of me that felt, and now I did not know if I could ever find the key. We were extracted by a Humvee convoy as the sun set, turning the sky into a sheet of fire. Fallujah was burning behind us. Back at the base, I sat in the shower and watched the water turn pink, then red, then brown as it washed away the dust and the pieces of people. It did not wash away the memories. I wrote a letter home to my mother. I told her I was fine. It was a lie. I wanted to tell her that her son was dead and that a weapon was wearing his skin. But I just sealed the envelope and put it in the pile. Miller found me later smoking a cigarette in the dark. "You are changing, Jensen," he said. "You are becoming like us." Is that bad? It makes you a better killer, but it makes you worse at being human. Once you cross that line, you do not come back. You just learn to wear a mask. We sat in silence, watching the stars. Tomorrow would be another mission, another chance to die or to break a little more. That was my life now. That was my future. I walked back to my bunk, closed my eyes, and waited for the nightmares to come. They always did. The deployment ended on a Tuesday, not with fanfare, not with victory parades, just a C-130 cargo plane lifting off from Al-Assad Air Base, taking us away from Iraq, away from Fallujah, away from the war. Except you never really leave the war. It comes with you, lives inside you, a permanent resident in your head. I sat in the webbing seat surrounded by other Marines. Some were sleeping, some were staring at nothing. All of us were thinking the same thing. We survived. Out of my original squad of 16, only 3 of us made it through the whole deployment without being killed or wounded badly enough for evacuation. Me, Miller, Davis. 13 others, gone, dead or broken. That was the math. 13 out of 16, an 81% casualty rate. We were the lucky ones. but I did not feel lucky. Miller sat next to me with his eyes closed. "You think it will be different?" I asked. "Back home?" "No," he said, opening one eye. "It will not be different. Home is still home. But we are not who we were. They will expect the person who left. They will get someone else. What if we cannot adjust?" "Then we don't. Plenty of guys can't. You see them on street corners holding signs or eating a bullet in a garage. PTSD, survivor's guilt, moral injury. Pick your diagnosis." The plane droned on for hours. Iraq behind us, America ahead. But the distance did not matter. The war was in my head now. We landed in North Carolina at Cherry Point. Late afternoon, warm sun, green grass, trees, colors I had forgotten existed. Iraq was brown, tan, gray, blood red, black. That was the whole palette of war. But here the blue sky and green trees looked fake, like a movie set, too perfect, too peaceful. Families were waiting behind barriers with American flags, crying and cheering. I found my mother in the crowd. She was older and thinner. 7 months had aged her by years. She saw me and her face lit up. She ran toward me and hugged me tight. I stood there with my arms at my sides. I did not hug back. I could not. My body had forgotten how to do that. She pulled back and looked at my face. Her smile faltered. "Are you okay? You look different," I finished. "Yeah, I know." Home was exactly as I had left it. My room, same bed, same posters. It felt like someone else's room, someone I used to be. I sat on the bed and it felt too soft. I was used to the hard ground and sleeping in body armor. My mother made pot roast and mashed potatoes, the food I had dreamed about. I took a bite and tasted nothing, just texture, substance, fuel. That night I could not sleep in my bed. It was too quiet, too safe. My brain kept expecting mortars and the sound of gunfire. I grabbed my blanket and lay on the floor next to the couch. A hard surface, familiar. I closed my eyes and the dreams came immediately. Jackson jumping on the grenade, Rodriguez bleeding out, Williams taking 6 rounds, the fighter I shot in the throat, a parade of the dead. I woke up screaming. My mother was there kneeling beside me. "Mark, you are safe. You are home." It was just a nightmare. "It is fine," I said. "Go back to bed." I heard her crying in her room later. I had brought the war home and now it was hurting her too. The VA offered counseling. I went once and sat in a room with a therapist who had never seen war. She asked how I felt. "Empty," I said. She diagnosed me with post-traumatic stress disorder and gave me pills, antidepressants and sleep aids. I took them for a week. They made me feel like I was living underwater. I stopped taking them. I preferred to feel nothing than to feel artificially numbed. I tried to get a job, retail, warehouse, construction. When they asked what I did in the Marines, I told them infantry, rifleman, combat veteran. Their faces always changed. Fear, pity, uncertainty. They did not want to hire a killer. I ended up working at a gas station on the night shift, 11 to 7, minimum wage. It was perfect. Alone most of the night with the hum of fluorescent lights and no one asking if I was okay. Miller called me 2 months later. His voice sounded tired. "Davis killed himself last week," he said. "What?" "Garage, car running, carbon monoxide. He left a note saying he could not turn off the war." That was 3 now. Davis, Rodriguez, Jackson. I started to wonder if any of us would make it out alive, even if we survived the deployment. "You thinking about it?" I asked. "Every goddamn day," Miller said. "But I am still here." 6 months after coming home, I visited Jackson's mother in Georgia. We sat in her living room surrounded by photos of her son. I told her the truth about the grenade, how Jackson saved us all without hesitation. She cried, but she smiled too. She gave me his dog tags. I wore them around my neck under my shirt. A debt I could never repay. 2 years after coming home, I finally broke. I was sitting in my car in the gas station parking lot after my shift. I pulled out my pistol, a Beretta M9. the same model I carried in Iraq. I put it under my chin and felt the cold steel. It would be so easy. One squeeze, no more nightmares, no more pretending. I sat there for 10 minutes with my finger on the trigger. My phone rang. It was Miller. I almost did not answer. "Just checking in," he said. "I am here," I replied. "Still breathing." "Good. Keep doing that. One more day. That is all we have to do." I looked at the gun and then at the sunrise. I unloaded the pistol and put it in the glove box. One more day. That became my mantra. Today. Tomorrow could wait. 5 years after coming home, I was at a veterans group. An old Vietnam vet was talking. "It does not get easier," he said, "but it gets manageable. You survived something that person you used to be could not have. You became someone stronger. The war is still happening in your head, but you get to choose how it ends." I thought about that. I owed it to the ones who did not come back to keep going, to find meaning in the survival. For the first time, I felt a sense of purpose. 10 years after Fallujah, I am still here. I do not sleep well, and the nightmares have not disappeared, but they have lessened. I have a job as a counselor at a veterans center. I tell the guys who are drowning that they are not alone. I tell them to survive one more day. Miller is still alive, and we talk every month. I still wear Jackson's dog tags. People ask me if the war was worth it. I do not have a good answer. We liberated a city and we destroyed lives. We were children sent to die in a war that changed us forever. Fallujah killed the person I was and created someone new, someone colder, but someone more grateful for the simple act of breathing. I am not that 19-year-old kid anymore. That kid died in a school in the Jolan District under a blood-orange sky. I am whoever came back. I am whatever is left. And I am still fighting. I am Mark Jensen. I was 19 when I killed my first man. I am 30 now, and I am still trying to figure out how to live with what I became. Maybe I will figure it out tomorrow, or maybe never. But I will keep trying. For Jackson, for Rodriguez, for Davis, for Williams, for Carver, for Thompson. One more day. Always one more day.